Well, welcome to the webinar. This is the first time I've done this. And if you guys, if you've been watching me or you've met me, you know I'm rather passionate about lacking wobbly bits, feeling better, and helping other people. And that is the purpose for this webinar. And the reason I'm doing this is I want you to feel your best. I want to share with you how you can do this and how simple it is to be able to lose your wobbly bits, feel better, look better, feel better in your own skin. And so my motivation of this is really, I guess, to share my knowledge with you. Some of you will already be on this. Some of you will already know who I am. Some of you, can you drop in the chat if you haven't met me before? If this is your first time seeing my crazy self, I'll apologize about my husky, sexy voice. I am just on the end of the lurgy. We've got our kiddo retreat coming up next weekend, so I'm hoping to be lurgy-less for you all. It's lovely to see some faces I know. So I'm going to share my screen with you. You will have the opportunity for questions. All right, give me a wave if you can see my screen. Give me some jazz hands. Great. Just going to move you guys around a little bit. All right, good. Let's get going. Oh, hello, we've got hands raised. That's good. I'm assuming that means you can see my screen, which is good. If you have got questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll have a look for you. I will answer your questions live. This is about giving you guys value. It's about sharing what I've learned over the last 5 years. Can you believe it? It's actually been that long. So, but what I really wanted to share with you is it's not actually your fault you're struggling. I'm assuming if you're here, you have some kind of struggle, and it's really normal. We do. We're going to cover a little bit about that tonight and why we're struggling and what you can do about it. So that's really cool. I'm not going to hard sell you. I don't believe in hard sell. I am going to share with you some ways I can help you, but the hard sell is definitely not me. So once we get to the end, I'm going to give you some free stuff and just going to give you as much value as I possibly can tonight. I wanted to start with this, and this is a Hippocrates quote: "Let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine." What's happened over the last 70 years, as many of you will know, the human race is getting sicker and fatter, and we're struggling. And that's because of our ultra-processed food, and it's because of our big pharma and big food and the combination of that. And so when we take out ultra-processed food and we make some really small tweaks, we can actually reclaim our health. And it's not just our health. We can shrink our waistline. We can make our brain work better. We can kill all our cravings. And it's actually way more simple than you would think. So can you give me a show of hands if you follow keto or low carb, or if you've tried it before? Got a few? Okay, so I'm talking about keto and low carb, and you don't have to go hardcore. It can be as simple as minimizing food in packets. Hippocrates was on to something here. And what has happened, unfortunately, is even our doctors don't understand nutrition. They're not taught. But we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a groundswell of doctors who are starting to understand. If you are seeking a doctor that understands this lifestyle, you can find them on Low Carb Down Under. There's a list of practitioners by every single state. And they're people who actually get why this works. And I'm going to go through that with you tonight. Now, I'm not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I'm somebody who's highly passionate about teaching people about stopping the struggle, because that's exactly what happened to me. So tonight, I'm going to teach you why it's not your fault, what you can do about it. I'm going to share a really easy meal plan with you. You don't need to go and buy expensive keto meal plans or low carb meal plans. Don't need to spend money on that stuff. It is so easy. And I'm going to give you that at the end. I'm going to teach you about what courses and what community you can hook into, and then I'll answer your questions as well. So, right. This was me. As those of you that watch me on social media, you know I got rather passionate about sharing this lifestyle. I was struggling. I just didn't know why. And in 2018, I saw this photo, and I guess some of you will have had those moments where you just went, oh my gosh, how did I even get here? And this was that moment for me. I looked at this photo, like I was so excited about this photo. We were going to Bali. This is my daughter, Hannah. We were going to Bali, and I was really excited about the elephants, and, you know, they've got big long eyelashes, like Married at First Sight. And I know that I saw this photo. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I got here. Now, I didn't know at the time, but I was pre-diabetic. I found this journey. Actually, Hannah's dad was talking about keto and low carb, and I rolled my eyes at him. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, no, you'll love it. I'm like, no, I'm not cutting out bread and pasta. No. Back then, there weren't really many replacements, whereas now there's a ton more replacements, and then depending on how crazy you want to go. So I sort of foobarred him. And then a couple of months later, Hannah came home from his house, and she said, oh, Mum, do you think that we could eat more like I do at Dad's? Ouchies. That was a bit like, oh, that hurt a bit. So I'm like, okay, God, I don't even know what to do. So I started researching. I got really passionate, and, you know, the rest is kind of history. So before and after, now, obviously, you know, my face is getting skinnier. I'm doing the markets. I wrote my book. People don't recognize me anymore because my face is a bit skinnier and, you know, different to what it was when I published my book. But when Corona broke out, those of you, I know a lot of you guys from my bra fitting business. I've been doing it for 10 years, and a lot of you have sort of followed me through this journey. So thank you for that. I'm very grateful for that. What happened was I sort of started yelling really loudly, and then people started coming along for the ride. I'm like, oh, okay, I better find out and make sure what I'm teaching them is actually right. So I did my diploma of nutrition. FYI, what they teach you is wrong. I knew what I was doing worked, and I knew why it worked. And I just remember going, okay, I'm just going to suck this up. I'm going to get the tick in the box. And I wrote my book at the same time through COVID. And that was published a couple of years ago. The biggest problem is that when we go into the supermarket, we are bombarded by predator processed food marketing. It's not your fault that you are called to buy this, or that you succumb to cravings, or that your trolley ends up with lots of it. It's not your fault that you crave this stuff. This stuff is made to a bliss point. It is the perfect blend of sweet, salty, sour, and it is designed to make us really addicted to it. And so the key is replacements. Right now, I want you to think about what it is that you fall off the wagon with, or what's your poison? What's the word? Nemesis. Mine was chocolate. I could easily go through a block of Cadbury. I'm seeing lots of nods. I loved donuts. That was I'm going to the shops and I'll treat myself. What else? God, everything. Pretzels. I love pretzels. What else? Vegemite on toast. Treat food for me. I didn't realize it was a treat food, but it gave me something internally. So I want you to write that down. And then I'm going to teach you how to make that blood sugar friendly. Write it down. Maybe it's chips. Maybe it's pasta. So it's not your fault. That it is literally, they're setting up chocolate stands in the fruit and veggie section. It's predator marketing. And there's no coincidence that it's a lot cheaper because a lot of the industries are subsidized. Have you ever noticed that if you look up in the supermarket, so all of the profitable stuff, right, it's at eye level. Those companies have paid to have it put there. If you look up, you'll see the lesser brands. Often they're the better choices, right up and right down. So if you're struggling, if you've got brain fog, if you're struggling to lose weight, this will be a really good webinar for you. If you're tired, if you're moody, if you feel like you've got no willpower, if you feel like you've always failed, you're in the right place. Anyone ever felt like any of those? Yeah. See, you're not alone. Everybody struggles. You are not failing. It's the system that's actually failing you. So we need to unlearn a bit. And hopefully tonight I can teach you a little bit about that. When you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, your body is a toddler having a tantrum. The cells aren't getting fuel and they are hungry. And this is known as insulin resistance. And what it is when you have spiked your blood sugar over and over and over again from our food pyramid diet, bread, pasta, processed foods, your body, your cells take off the amount of insulin receptors on the cell. They take off, they downregulate the amount of insulin receptors, and insulin receptors are responsible for clearing your blood sugar. And now your cells are yelling at you. Give me the fastest energy, damn you. And you have no willpower because it is your body going, I need energy. But when you're insulin resistant, you are literally being blocked. Your cells have a guard at the door and the cells are locked. And that is because your body needs to clear the blood sugar, and it will not burn your fat as a fuel source, or it will not release energy from those cells because you might die during the long, cold winter. That is your fat store, and that is your backpack for when you're stuck in the cave when there's no food. But how many long, cold winters have you had recently? We don't have them. So we go on pantry raids because our cells are hungry. And this drives inflammation, which compounds the problem. So again, your cells are driving you. It's actually not, you're not the problem. You're being driven by mechanics that are beyond your control, if you like. Firstly, let's talk about a couple of myths because I want to bust these wide open, just in case any of you sort of aren't aware. Fat does not make you fat. What they told you was wrong. Fat is essential for hormone production. Our brains are over 70% fat. And so the skinny diets that we've all been on with the low-fat food and the low-fat milk and yogurt, they're sabotaging you because not only are they full of sugar to make them taste great, because when they took the fat out of food, they actually needed to add stuff back in to make them palatable because otherwise our food would taste like cardboard. We need fat for repair. We need it for aging well. We need it for our skin. We need it for hormones. Men, you need it for testosterone. Women, you need it for progesterone and estrogen and balance. Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. Cholesterol is so vitally important that our own body makes it. There are 5 main categories of cholesterol, and most doctors measure cholesterol as a whole. There are different kinds of cholesterol that we talk about in my courses, but cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. So if you have a doctor that says, oh, no, you can't eat butter and you can't eat bacon and blah, 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 you need a new doctor. True. Hands up if you've ever lost weight following keto and low carb. Keep your hand up if you felt better while you were on it as well. Yeah. So here's the next myth. BMI, body mass index, we're all measured against, is wrong, because we want to preserve muscle mass, and muscle takes up less space. So when you follow a ketogenic or a low carb diet, and I'll explain why that works in a minute, you preserve muscle mass. So you lose the amount of body fat, but you get leaner and stronger. But muscle takes up less room, therefore you weigh differently. The next myth, calories in, calories out, does not work. How's it working for the human race? It's not. It's not working. And the reason for this is that calories burn differently and they are used differently in the body. So for example, fat, when we eat dietary fat, it's used to make hormones. It's used in gut health. It's used for repair. Now, if it was as simple as putting down 4 bits of paper and then you pick up 4 bits of paper, nobody would be struggling. But our body uses calories in different ways. So calories in, calories out is absolutely flawed. It's wrong. And so is eat less, move more. When you eat less, your body downregulates the metabolism to conserve energy. Your body's job is to keep you alive and to keep your brain functioning. Your brain is a hungry, hungry beast, and it will preserve that at all costs. So when you eat less and you move more, not only do you get ravenously hungry because your body's like, well, if you're going to do that, you're off catching that prey. How are you going to catch the next prey? Hang on a minute, you didn't catch any prey. How are we going to catch the next one? So it actually downregulates that metabolism. Eat less, move more doesn't work. Please give me a show of hands if you've ever lost weight without doing crazy exercise. Yeah. So it's definitely, you can do it. When you eat more, when you move more, you need to eat more. And I'm going to give you the key through all of that. So here's the truth. Our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, and we are still our ancestors. Our brains haven't really come any further. Sure, we got better at technology, but at the end of the day, our system still thinks we are hiding in caves. And so we're through this abundance and scarcity thing. So, and that's how our ancestors lived. They had a lot of meat. They would feast. They had a lot of whatever was growing it locally. And then they went through times of famine where they burned their wobbly bits that they'd stored in summer from eating the berries and the nuts off the trees. Today, we have food on tap. We have processed foods that's been designed for shelf life. We have that, and that was, the world wars. That was a big instrumental change or catalyst in foods that needed to survive a long time and be shipped. Now we have, I bought some cherries the other day and I'm like, oh, the cherries are early this year. No, they've been brought from California. Well, I mean, they were yummy, but that's what humans have kind of evolved to do. Now we are evolved and we're wired to look for those cherries. We're wired to look for the honey in the trees. So the food manufacturers have made it very easy for us. Unfortunately, what happens is it messes up our insulin response, which is all to do with blood sugar, and I'll explain that in a second. But it also messes up our satiety. So what it does when we eat sugar and things that turn into sugar, we break our hunger hormones. So leptin is our satiety hormone, and it tells us that we're full. Sugar and starches bypass that mechanism. They bypass it, so we don't get the off switch. It's not your fault. It's being marketed to you. And you can repair that off switch, which is really cool, and you can do it really fast. Ghrelin is our hunger hormone, and you'll be familiar with that. When you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, okay, I think it's time for brekkie. That you can remember it by ghrelin, makes that growling noise. So we've got a lot of hormones at play here as well. This man, Ansel Keys, is single-handedly, almost, he had a lot of friends, responsible for the reason that we believe fat is bad for us. I'm not going to go into it massively, but it was based on, our food pyramid was based on a very, very flawed and cherry-picked study. It was 26 countries that he studied because he was convinced that dietary fat caused cholesterol and cholesterol caused heart attacks. So the president at the time, President Eisenhower, he was having heart attacks and they were a bit worried about this. So they went on this big old research thing, and Ansel Keys was so consumed by his belief that he basically forced the food pyramid upon us. But what he did was he picked 7 countries out of those 26 that supported his hypothesis. It's since been proven wrong, and that he was actually wrong, and that dietary fat didn't cause heart attacks. Now, he had a lot of people saying, no, that's not right. He had people at the time going, it's wrong, but he was so well connected that he actually won. Then there was sort of this period where it just became dogma. It became what we believed. And if you have a look at the obesity trends, and this is just to 2008, look at where the low-fat guidelines, the food pyramid, was introduced in 1970s. And look at what happened to obesity. Look at what happened to sugar consumption. So as they took the fat out of foods, they filled it up with sugars. And they brought in a lot of carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are sugar. Now, I'm not saying carbs are bad. I'm saying the starchy, refined ones will not suit your health journey. Potatoes, rice, maybe you can reintroduce them. But the biggest culprit is processed food. So here's the countries that once he studied, here's the countries he didn't. If you would like another copy of that, I can send that to you. But basically, he just cherry-picked that study and made it say what he wanted to say. And even Ansel Keys, before his death, actually said, you know what, I'm wrong. I was wrong. So he reneged that, but we all believe it still. And we believe it because we did what we were told. Unfortunately, what happens is when we eat starchy carbs and sugars, we store that as fat. So when we're storing it, our blood sugar dips, we get hungry, we get tired, we eat more. Our body, our pancreas releases insulin. Insulin stores the blood sugar so it's the street sweeper. It comes and it sweeps all the blood sugar away. It stuffs it in the cells. We need insulin to do that. But while we have insulin in our system, i.e. blood sugar, we actually cannot burn our own fat as a fuel source. So if you're on this journey and you've stalled, you need to have a look at what's crept in. If you're starting this journey, it is all about blood sugar and insulin response. It's all about that. And it's a repetitive cycle. And it's hard to get off. So what I'm going to go through very shortly is how you get off this. Have an awareness that when you start the day with starchy carbs, i.e. breakfast cereal that's full of sugar, porridge, which is lovely this time of year, anything that's really high in sugar that we were told to eat is going to start you on this cycle that we were just talking about, up and down all the way through the day. My suggestion to you is to start the day with protein, like our Asian friends do. Bacon and eggs. Keto, low carb isn't all bacon and eggs. Start the day with some Greek yogurt and berries. Got more around that to come. So know that it's a survival mechanism. I'm going to suggest to you that if you're keen to do this, you just start by taking real food and shopping the outside of the aisles and moving your processed food to your neighbor's house. It's so naughty, isn't it? Feed it to somebody else. Is there anybody here listening here that goes, oh, well, no, I don't want to waste that food? If you're one of those people and you're thinking about what you've got in the cupboard that might not suit your journey, I'm going to ask you, how is it going to impact your health? Just have a think about that. So obviously we know sugar isn't good for us. It drives inflammation, but in the presence of sugar, you cannot burn your own fat. So when you have low blood sugar, so i.e. if you're not eating sugar and starchy carbs, you have low fat storage. It is actually as simple as that. So what's keto and low carb? It's when you have low blood sugar, your liver produces ketones, a little bit more complicated than that. We cover off a bit more of that in my courses. But if you do want to know that, you can listen to my podcast. They're all free, as well as some great episodes at the moment. So we make ketones, and ketones are a very clean fuel source. They make boundless energy, which sometimes can be a little bit of a struggle when you start this during the night, as somebody I've just been speaking to has found out. Ketones are a very clean energy. They're solar compared to diesel. And so when your liver starts making ketones, you can burn your own fat as an energy source. And you can do that by eating real food. And that will burn your fat stores, clean up your neurons, and ketones pass the blood-brain barrier. What that means is that your brain, it uses glucose, but it can also use ketones. Glucose is you need insulin in the brain. You need insulin to open up that cell in the brain. So if you're insulin resistant, your brain cells aren't getting the energy they need. When you have ketones, they slip through the cat door. They sneak underneath the door like smoke does in a fire or cold air does in winter. So how do you do it? You lower your starchy carbs, you lower your sugar, you up your healthy fats. Fat does not make you fat, and you eat tons of good quality protein. What's not to love about that? I'll give you some examples. When you do this, you activate fat burning, but you can't do that unless your carbohydrates and your sugars are low. They have to be low enough to actually activate ketones. So is it dangerous? No. No, we are actually born in ketosis. We're born in ketosis, and we are fed 9 times out of 10 from our mum's breast milk. And breast milk has medium chain triglycerides and lots of healthy fats. And our brains develop basically on fat. Our brains develop on fat. And then what do? We start to feed our babies cereals at the age of, 6, and we sabotage that. So am I saying make your babies keto? No, no, I'm not. I'm saying give them real food. But it is not dangerous. We are designed to be in ketosis. So all of the things I'm about to show you actually turn into blood sugar, and blood sugar spikes insulin, and insulin is your fat storage hormone. Is anyone else feeling a little bit sad right now? Toast, champagne, diet drinks, orange juice, flours, cornflakes, pasta, rice, potatoes. These all spike our blood sugar and will sabotage you from actually burning your own fat. And fruit, you've been told it's healthy. If you think about the fruit we used to eat as our ancestors, we might have been lucky to find a handful of berries, and we would have shared them with our tribe. Now they've bred fruit to be plump, just like we're becoming. So what can you do about it? You can shop the outside of the aisles. You can start with your veggies, start with your meats, eggs, dairy, coconut, all of these things. If you eat this food, your body will actually work it out. Now there's some carby things in there, parsnips, Do I eat them? Yep. What I do is I food layer. So I eat my meat, and then if I'm having any starchy veg like parsnips or potatoes, sweet potato, pumpkin, I'll actually layer them. And what that does is the protein that you're eating slows down the absorption of the blood sugar. So shopping the outside of the aisles, minimizing processed food, and prioritizing protein. So protein being yogurt, dairy, coconut, meat, salmon, fish, seafood, chicken, lamb, tofu, all of those proteins. Protein is super important, especially if you are a male who needs testosterone and a female who is struggling with menopause. Super important. Please throw away your oils that are in clear containers if you haven't already. Canola, sunflower, safflower, rice bran oil. And switch them over to butter, healthy fats, avocado, olive, coconut, macadamia, nuts. The oils that are in clear containers that I mentioned before, which incidentally is what all our fast food is cooked in, they are carcinogenic. The biggest problem is that the molecular structure has been changed because the oils have been taken out by, or they've been mangled by heat processing and chemicals called hexanes, and there's residues and things in there as well. The problem with these fats and these oils is they take up and block the real fats from going where they're needed, and they're tangled up. So picture undoing a ball of string, but you're just going to pull it willy-nilly. That's what those other fats do. So if you don't take anything else away from this call, please do that. If you're like, nah, not cutting out my breads and pastas, please, please, please chuck away your damaged oils. Let's have a really quick talk about hormones. Hormones are chemicals that are released within us that affect cells in another part of us. So example, insulin, we spoke about leptin and ghrelin. We also make cortisol, especially if you're a middle-aged female, you are making extra cortisol, and that's your stress hormone. And that is responsible for making more insulin, and you wonder why you're struggling. Our lifestyle right now isn't conducive. And there are tons and tons of tips I've got around that, but that will have to wait for another one of these. We have sex hormones, we have dopamine, serotonin, we have tons of hormones. And we spoke briefly about why the calories in, calories out doesn't work. It's because we need healthy fats to make all these hormones. No wonder we're struggling. So leptin and ghrelin, satiety, hunger, and you can fix that leptin balance. So if you're insulin resistant, you're probably leptin resistant. And leptin is the thing that tells you you're full, which is bypassed by sugar. Is keto going to kill you? No. Cholesterol is not bad. We need it. Just reiterating that. It's not the fat that is causing the problem and the heart attacks. It's the combination of the sugar and the seed oils that are driving inflammation. Donut, packet of twisties, white bread. Sorry, not sorry. This is what's making you struggle. Let's talk quickly about ketoacidosis versus ketosis. Nutritional ketosis is where your liver makes ketones. Ketoacidosis is where it's uncontrolled ketone production, where you don't actually have the mechanism to regulate blood sugar storage. And it's dangerous, but nutritional ketosis and ketoacidosis are completely different things, even though they sound the same. Right. I hope you've learned a bit of stuff, and I've got some more, so just bear with me because I'm going to give you the simplest meal plan ever. So how can I help? I run a course called the Fat Loss Formula. We call every Monday night. We've just had a call before this, and it's great fun. You work your way through the modules, and then you hook in to a community. I also have a community where we help each other. We share recipes, keto retreat. Some of you I'll see this coming weekend. And I also do online cooking classes. So if any of those you think might be interesting to you, you're welcome to reach out to me. I will shoot an email out for you as well. I charge $250 for my course. For that, you actually get 6 weeks worth of modules, recipe handouts, meal plans. I'm going to give you one very shortly. Live calls, you get modules, you get all of the recordings, but I'm going to offer it to you guys at 50% off, $20 a week. That is literally a pizza. Maybe not a Domino's pizza on a Tuesday night. That's a good quality pizza. That's cheaper than a steak. I'm going to give you all of the recordings. There are 80 recordings in there as well. So you can work your way over those. Take a photo of the offer if you would like to have a look at it. As you've seen, I'm not very good with codes. And then also if you don't want to go down that road, I also have $5 a week and you can join the community in the calls. So you don't get the modules, but you get to dial in and you can ask questions, which I'm going to go to in just a sec. And then I've also got the online cooking classes. I do offer for some of my clients, I've got 12 months unlimited, and they just basically book a call with me when they need me. I also do 6 months for those as well. So there are lots of ways that we can work together, and it really depends on what you want to achieve and how much your budget is. There you go. That was the sales bit. That's all there is. Here are my 3 tips. And apart from the oils, if you do not do anything else from this call, all you have to do is lower your starchy carbs, pick a protein for your meal, add a healthy fat, and go with above the ground veggies. So for example, I might cook salmon in butter and olive oil, and then I'll cook some above the ground veggies. That's how I eat. And if you do that for 4 weeks, your pants will fall off. Your brain will clear up, and you will be able to actually get off that roller coaster by fixing your blood sugar. And that it actually is as simple as that. Don't overthink this. That little voice in your head that's going bit, 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 bit. No. Is it important to you to age well? To see your kids age well? To be able to play with your grandkids? To be able to give your partner or your kids the best possible life? And you know what? This rubs off on your family too. And that's the coolest thing. So you might like to take a photo of this. This is a meal plan. It is the only meal plan you ever need on keto and low carb. And actually, you know what? If you don't want to call it keto and low carb, doesn't matter. This is their formula. Pick a protein, add a healthy fat above the ground veg. The fat is important. And it's important because it's what activates leptin. And what's leptin? Leptin's our satiety hormone. It's what makes you feel full. And that, my friends, is when you don't go craving and eating donuts, when you've eaten enough protein. You actually almost can't eat too much protein and fat. Could you eat 3 steaks in a sitting? No, but you can eat a whole pizza, right? I've eaten a whole loaf of bread before in one go. Said that out loud. So thank you. I'm going to stop my screen share and I'm going to answer any questions. Let me look at the chat. Been introduced to you before. Keto weekend is next weekend, as in coming up. Hi, Lindy. Nice to meet you. Crisps and milk. Yes. So, you can make milk with cream. Which is actually, if you think about it, the only difference with milk is they've taken the cream off, right? So you can get an old milk container, wash it out, and half milk, half water, little tiny spoonful of maybe erythritol or monk fruit will actually make it taste like milk without the blood sugar spike. Scones, jam and cream. Oh, yeah. Carol, you are about to get my jam recipe if you haven't got it yet. So jam and cream, yes. And I have got a recipe somewhere for keto scones. I'll find it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Scones. I have to write it down because my brain's like really like a sieve. Sugar. Yeah, totally. Chocolate, biscuits, fruit, lolly snakes. Yes, absolutely. All of the above. So here's the thing. If you make replacements for those foods I've asked you to write down, you can troubleshoot that. Now, if you're craving sweet, you need magnesium and pink salt. If you're craving salty, magnesium and salt will knock that over too. And no, salt doesn't make your blood vessels do things. Salt, we actually need salt. Feel bad buying crap food. Yeah. And that's the thing, like white fluffy bread. Oh, man, enjoying the course. Oh, I'm so glad. Don't eat seafood. You don't need to eat seafood. Lentils and beans. Lindy, that depends on your goal. If that is your source of protein, then you could actually go with, Lindy, are you vegetarian? She's still here? Yep. Can you find the mute button?
Unmute. No, I'm not.
Okay. So do you like other proteins?
Yes, I do. I just wondered if some recipes I notice have chickpeas in them.
Yeah. So they are fairly hot. They do turn into sugar.
Okay.
Very much going to depend on your goals. So if fat loss is a goal for you or you're wanting to reclaim your brain, you could try cutting them out for say 3 or 4 weeks and see how you feel.
Yep.
And when you reintroduce them, then take that benchmark and see how you feel. Keep a food diary.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem at all. Fasting, what are my thoughts? 2 meals a day. Sometimes I only have 1 meal a day. I just make it bloody worthwhile. So yeah, fasting is one of the healthiest things you can do for your body. At the beginning of this journey, you probably can't imagine skipping a meal. But what happens when we don't eat, our body not only burns our bits, but it does what's called autophagy. And autophagy is a Greek word for self-eating. Auto, self, autophagy, eating. So we self-eat and our body recycles all of the defunct cells and proteins, and it makes new things like stem cells. And stem cells are baby cells that can be anything they want. So fasting, one of the best things you can actually do. Great. Has anyone got any questions? Happy to answer questions for you. No? Did you guys, can you please put in the chat what your takeaway was today? Was that helpful? Can you give me a thumbs up if you found that helpful? Awesome. I know that only scratched the surface. And actually it went longer than I expected because I get on a rant. So sorry about that, guys. Some recipes online for keto. Sugar replacement thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. I'll cover that. Great. Thank you, Janelle. I know you know about keto too. Some of the recipes online for keto, sugar replacements. Okay, so there's a few sugar replacements that you can use that are really useful. Monk fruit, erythritol, stevia, and xylitol. And they're all used for different things. So when I was teaching caramel and chocolate on the cooking class last night. And so we do it online every 2 weeks. So I've taught them hamburger salad. We did caramel slice last night, and we used xylitol. Now, xylitol is from the birch tree or the birch plant. It's a bark, and there's no blood sugar response. So when you have sugar, you have your blood sugar response, and then your insulin comes out to play, and insulin is a fat storage hormone. or none of those sweeteners have a blood sugar response. And it's very, it matters which sweetener you use for what. So xylitol, if you don't want something to recrystallize, that's when you would use xylitol. So I would use xylitol or the actually the Lakanto baking blend. So good if you're making caramel. You'll find my caramel recipes, like there's tons of recipes of mine for free on TikTok. And I've got Richard's repurposing them for YouTube at the moment too. So you'll find me under Lazy Keto Mum. So yeah, erythritol has had a bad rap very recently in the press, but the test that they did was they fed people 50 grams of erythritol and then wondered why they got upset tummies. 50 grams, that's like a half a packet of jelly snakes. It's like, and they fed them that consistently over 2 weeks and wondered why they had digestive issues. Still going to be better than diabetes. So I guess the thing is when you get, like, go easy. When you make those keto sweeteners and replacement foods, do make sure that you savor them. The thing is, they're almost guilt-free because you've got, let's say, the cookie dough balls, page 208 of my book, if you've got it. They've got magnesium because of the dark chocolate. They've got the protein of the almond meal. They've got, what else have they got? Oh, they've got the healthy fat of the butter. And if you don't do dairy, you can use coconut oil. Make sure it's the solid stuff or you'll end up with it down your wrists. Carb creep, yeah, it definitely happens. If you've got carb creep, you could actually try tracking. Yes, so we did make the caramel and it was delicious. It set eventually. So awesome. I hope that was helpful to you guys. Do you have any other questions? Did I answer that for you? Sue, up my protein. Fats in the last week. Well done. You're welcome. Upping your protein and fats. Isn't that the life change, huh? And it's so nice not to be a food slave. You're welcome. If you guys find me on TikTok or you watch my reels and stuff, I am always sharing. And yes, you can come on my courses if you want, but you know what? I just want you guys to feel like you're supposed to feel. And that's my motivation for doing this. I'll share the recording with you guys. If there's anyone you think should hear it or you wished heard it, you're welcome to send the recording on and I'll send out your meal plan and a couple of bits and pieces with the email probably tomorrow. So as you can hear, I'm a bit full of the lurgy and I'm going to bed. So thank you for coming. It's never fun talking to myself. I so appreciate you guys and your interaction, and I will talk to you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Em.
Thank you. Bye, guys.